Hi guys, welcome back to Women, Wine and Wisdom. I'm Jummy.
I'm Naomi.
And today we got a topic for you on absent fathers in the household. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. So Nae's about to talk to you more about our non-alcoholic wine that we have for today.
Yes, if you've noticed, we've been doing quite a few non-alcoholics. So this is from Marks and Spencer's. And it's only 34 calories per 125 ml glass. So,
Poured
which is really good.
accurately.
So Jimmy has kindly poured it for us already. But yeah, it is a rosé. So it tastes like, well, it's meant to taste like a rosé. So hopefully we'll give it a taste now and let you know our thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can pick up one of these bottles in your local M&S. So let's get cracking.
Cheers. My love.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we should have had it a bit more chilled. But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. What do you think?
I think it's a good representation of a non-alcoholic rosé. The strawberries and cream is quite, like, that feeling's quite
prominent.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite prominent. It's easy drinking. It's easy flowing. So yeah, I see why this would be picked up for a girls' night.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic vibe.
Or even like, you know, like if you're going to the park with your girls,
Yeah.
you got like a little cheese board going, some strawberries, some sandwiches. This would be perfect if you didn't want to drink.
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay, so topic. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
How do you think absent fathers affects our generation, men and women? Because it does for both.
Yeah. I think it affects them like massively, but I think even before really delving into the facts, like into absent fathers, we need to discuss, you know, what is an absent father? Because there's so many different categories you can put them in. Mm-hmm. You can have like a peekaboo father, who's someone who's
low. The thing is, no explanation needed on that one. They know themselves.
You know yourself if you're a peekaboo father. You pop in when you want and you pop back out when the time gets too hard. Mm-hmm. You know, you have fathers who are just who have never been there, point blank period, and they are the kind of quote unquote definition of an absent father.
Then
you have fathers who are in the household, but they are completely empty. They don't pour into you, they don't talk to you, they don't nurture you, they bring nothing of value to you. And then you have, you know, that the fathers who have passed away, that what we call angel fathers, you know, they're not around and it's not their choice to be absent, but they are absent. And so there's so many different
I think angel fathers are very different to the other types of partners other types of fathers.
No, of course they are.
Yeah.
But it still has an impact on the individual who has 100%. Not been brought up with a father.
100%.
Yes, their biological father.
Yeah, and I think, again, because yes and no. It does have an impact, 100%, because I feel like when you lose a loved one, it's always going to have an impact. I still think that there's a slight difference between them being absent by choice and then absent by not choice. I know I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
I'm going to say that I want to make it very clear because I do know people who have lost fathers, which is why I thought to mention that, because I do feel like there has been an impact by not having their fathers there, but not in the sense that their fathers have chosen not to be there. Of course, it's not a choice. Yeah.
And again, I think also depends on what age the father becomes an angel father. Because if you're a teenager and your father becomes an angel father, I think that might affect you differently to when you're a newborn or when you're, for example, a fully fledged adult.
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course. It will have different impacts because as a newborn, you have no remnants of your father. You've only got pictures and stories. Or whereas if you're a teenager, you will start to have recollections of your father. And so a lot of people who lose their father later on in life who had a good relationship with their father, they're likely to be able to take a lot of the wisdom, knowledge that they've instilled in them and be able to apply them in later life. But it still has an impact on them because they can't go to them to talk about certain circumstances and things they go through in life. Whereas if you lose your father at a younger age, there's always been that hole that can never really be filled. You don't have a choice of going out to seek your father.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question on that.
Go on.
Do you think there's a difference between being a father and being a dad?
I need to get out the definition first. But I know there is a difference.
No, do you know what the thing is? I'm just genuine. I mean, I think there is a difference because I think, again, a father
is somebody who fathers you and literally nurtures you.
Literally, yeah. Or vice versa, yeah. I would actually say the other way. Yeah, I don't know which way round I would actually put it. But basically, one is a sperm donor, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
And then the other raises you, looks after you, nurtures you, pours into you, as Naomi always says. And I think we need to differentiate that. Yeah. Because you actually have fathers that are present and do absolutely nothing, and you may as well have been not present.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? 100%. And then we have fathers that are money fathers or dads, you know. They think that money is their way in which they show love, and they just give in that regard, which also has its impacts. I think it just depends where you fall and how you navigate that.
Yeah.
And I wonder where people would put themselves.
Yeah, I wonder where a lot of people would put themselves, because I think it's quite interesting talking to people who maybe were raised by both parents, or both parents were in the household, and they had the typical nuclear family. Yeah. The fathers were just not instrumental in any of their upbringing. And when I say instrumental, maybe they contributed a bit to the finances of the household, but they weren't ever really present.
I know exactly what you mean.
So, you know, and the impacts and the knock-on effects you see, it can be so detrimental when a father is not present in your life. You know, you see women having to seek validation from external men.
Yep.
You see men sometimes having to seek validation from in the form of other guys, and joining gangs and getting themselves into trouble.
Women with bad relationships, not knowing how love, how men are supposed to love them, how they're supposed to raise their children, what to look for when they're looking for husbands, and if they're going to be good fathers.
Yeah.
So I think does it affect men or women worse?
Oh, I think that's immeasurable.
I agree.
I think it impacts them both in different ways.
Facts.
But both significantly.
And
I don't think enough men...
Stand by it.
And I don't think enough men take ownership of how instrumental being a father is to the foundations of their children.
What is being a good father? What is being a good father, and what is being a good dad? Let's combine these two words now, because otherwise it's going to get confusing.
Yeah.
So even though we said there's a difference just 2 minutes ago, because there actually is, obviously, but what is a good version of this figure that we look for?
I mean, there's so many attributes. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to cover all of them now.
There's no way. I'm sure we'll miss some.
Yeah, we'll definitely miss some.
The ones we miss, you can list them, guys.
List them down in the comment section. But ultimately, I feel a father who is nurturing, a father who is loving, kind, can teach you, forgiving, patient.
Yep.
You know, can instill knowledge in you as well.
Yeah.
You know, I love to say pour into you. So
literally.
Somebody who can pour into you. You know, somebody who could be a life teacher. You know, our parents go before us. They've lived life before us. And so ultimately we'd love, you know, when I think about parenting, I think about all the things that I have learned and how I want to pour that into my kids. Yeah. And so I would you know, want the same thing out of a father figure. Yeah. Finances, of course. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I mean, I saw like a clip on...
Don't let me deceive you. It doesn't hurt. It adds. We need it.
I saw a clip on TikTok. I think it was... Why should we behave like this? Non-alcoholic wine, by the way, guys. But there was a clip that I saw, and I think it went quite viral, so I'm sure many people saw it. But a father, he posted up a video of him taking his daughter to, I believe it was Dubai. Okay. And it was like, you know, he took her to a really nice restaurant. She was quite young, but took her to a nice restaurant, got her to see some amazing things. And he was like, the reason why he did it was to make sure that when another guy does it, or if a guy does it in the future, she's not wowed by these things.
Yeah, you shouldn't be wowed.
But you'd be surprised how many fathers don't, you know, do those nice gestures for their kids. And so when they're having it from a guy, it's like, oh my gosh, wow, this guy has shown me the world. And it's like, no, that should have been your father. He should have shown you enough. And I'm not saying, obviously, some people are not in a financial position to do so, but
again, do you know what the thing is? I think being a dad, you can't always, first of all, you should be in a decent financial position. Let's be honest. Like, you shouldn't really be it. I mean, it happens to the best of us, and it does happen where the dad's not in the best position, but it is really about how he bounces back. And even in that period of time is how you interact with your kids, what you teach them from that, because again, you could lose your job, for example, but lying down in the house drinking is not really beneficial for the kids.
No.
You see what I mean? But taking them out to maybe do some sport and maybe teaching them that, you know, daddy's applying at the moment or doing something.
Yeah.
We'll speak about this later, or we'll deal with this later. It's really how you deal with it when it comes to parenting. And it's so funny because from not being a parent, but being a teacher, you see so many things. And I wrote in my book as well, and I remember one of my work colleagues talking to me about it. He was like, I realized something when I was looking at your book, and I was talking about how we pitch kids for a competition, we pitch kids against each other, but really it's about, we should pitch them for themselves, love, and how our relationship is, not your relationship outside of you, or and what those relationships can bring to you. So it's a difficult one with, I want to be, you know, I want to show her the world so she's not impressed, because you want her to still be impressed, but where do we find the balance?
I think like ultimately the balance comes where it's like essentially it's a gesture. So although my dad might have taken me to, I don't know, Dubai, and maybe my partner wants to take me to, I don't know, what's another top place? Singapore.
There's loads of places. I feel like
let's just take Singapore for example. But the whole premise of it is the gesture. If the first time I'm starting to travel and go to these places is with my partner, then I might, to me, when my partner's doing it, I may seek so much validation in that and so much importance in that, that I'm so clouded by everything else.
I completely agree. Women are definitely, there are a lot of women that are genuinely scarred from absent fathers. And they say, oh, I have daddy issues. Therapy,
it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing, but therapy, honey. Because you know what it is? You get to a certain point where, and I've experienced this firsthand, actually, you get to a certain point where you can no longer use your parents as an excuse for your bad behaviour. No, so I don't know what age that is. But so when you're making up, you know, when I was 6, my mum did this or my dad did this. Okay, cool, but now you're 36. So now what?
So what do we do now?
What do we do now? Go to therapy. Run. Go hug a tree. You know, rub your feet in the grass. Do something.
Rub your feet in the grass.
No, apparently, do you not remember from the mental health video?
Yeah, but I mean,
too. But it's, you know, do what works for you.
Do what works for you is the
exactly
is the thing to take away from that.
So I don't know. How do you think do you think absent mothers affects women the same? As absent fathers.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think absent parents as a whole will impact children. I think absent mothers will impact sons and daughters, not just their daughters.
I think, you know what the thing is, I don't know if this is actually even true or not, and you know what, this could be completely wild, but I actually think maybe an absent mother might be more detrimental than an absent father. Do you know why I say that?
Go on.
Biologically, women are meant to naturally be maternal, which is not all of us. Don't get us wrong. Some women are not maternal at all.
Natural debate.
But I genuinely feel like an absent mother might be a little bit worse because the mother's there most of the time. You're the one that picks them up. You're the one that makes them dinner. You're the one that kind of brings them home. Obviously, that's not always the case and it's not 100%. But let's say, for example, that it is. I think they might feel that a little bit more because a lot of the time, daddy being not at home all the time and working was normal.
Yeah.
Whereas mummy not being at home is actually not that normal.
No. It's not that normal, to be fair.
Yeah. And again, guys, don't quote me on it. It's just I threw that out there because I'm just like, yeah.
It's a difficult one because I know people who have lost mothers at a very young age, for example.
Yeah.
And it hasn't stopped them from, you know, becoming, you know, emotional, for example, or having certain feminine-like qualities.
Biology. That's biology playing with us. But yeah, go on.
But ultimately, I think what really it comes down to from both from a father's perspective and also a mother's perspective is the support system around you. So although people may have lost their mothers at a young age, they've probably had aunties step up and help and be present in their lives. And likewise with fathers, they've had they'll probably have more oh gosh, I can't speak. They'll have male role models around them. So, you know, I've witnessed on both sides, like a man not having his father around from a young age because they've passed away, but also a female who's not had their mother around because they've passed away at a young age.
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily say that in both cases I've seen both of them lacking in certain things.
Yeah, in departments. Yeah. Which is amazing though. That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see have I seen that in my like immediate. Like, I think they're impacted differently. I think the impact of an absent father for a female is different from the impact of an absent dad for men.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Yeah. So I do see. I see what you're saying, but I also see it from the other side as well. And I'm like, I think there are slight differences, and I think it's more to do with which areas you don't develop.
Yeah,
do you see what I mean?
No, of course, but like, because I think like with a female, for example, she loses her mum. She doesn't really have that feminine person that they can go to for, I don't know, maybe how do they talk to their father about coming on their period, like for the first time? So those feminine qualities are lost, but then they do, you know, in more time, like if you've lost a mother, for example, due to her passing, a lot of your female aunties will step up. Like you'll probably have a female support system that will come around you. So there will be those channels where you can go to maybe a female cousin, a female auntie, a female friend to discuss those things with. From a man's perspective, losing a mother, that's going to be a completely different, you know, he may not know how to love a woman. He may be scared to love a woman as well. Yeah, they're always going to be, because men and women we're just two totally different
I completely
beings.
Agree. Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, so how do you so obviously earlier you listed like the different categories. How do you think that women are affected if they have an absent dad? Like how does that, do you know what? How does that show up in your late 20s and 30s? Let's start there.
I feel like with a lot of women who have absent fathers, I think there is a bit of therapy that needs to be had there, because I think a lot of people don't realise how childhood trauma impacts them. Yeah. And so they don't sometimes realise the habits or some of the things they do. Yeah. Maybe even why they're always single, why it's never working within a relationship. Yeah. And it could stem back to the fact that your father was never there to teach you how to love. Yeah. And do you know what's interesting? It's a lack of self-awareness on that person's part as well. But I feel like it's very common. I feel like a lot of people don't realise it. And, you know, you mentioned earlier, like, seek therapy. And I think a lot of people do need to do that. I think it needs to be made into the norm rather than like, oh, you're not okay, you're ill, that's why you're going to a therapist. And it's like, it's not always the case. And sometimes it's just just helping you be more aware of how your childhood has impacted you. Yep. And I think most people need to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Because once you, this is the thing, once you know what your weaknesses are and where your areas of improvement are, you can actually use them to your benefit. You can actually use them to your strength. And I think that's what people forget, because people, again, lack of self-awareness, but people don't like to take criticism. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And again, people are just not as, I mean, I think they are becoming more open to therapy and more people are admitting that they're doing therapy. So I think that's helping. But I think people need to be aware that their childhood has impacted them. I've actually met somebody and I'm like, no. Yeah. Like, I have a friend that she's talking to her therapist. She's kind of got the worst of both ends, where she doesn't know her dad. Okay. And her mother neglected her at a young age. Because she just, from what it sounds like, she just wasn't like what her mum wanted her to be like. She was a fat kid. And her mum was just like just rude, just used to like abuse her emotionally and physically. Yeah. And it had an impact. Do you know what's really interesting about that? So I have this thing, and I think I heard it on a TikTok as well, like one time. But do you not think that has something to do sometimes with the women, either maybe not being ready, maybe a bit of postpartum depression, but also sometimes women forget to grow up, and they try to kind of live their lives through their children again. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So it's like when you said, she wasn't what she expected her kid to be. I've seen that so many times. I've seen it. When I've seen it in secondary, I see it a lot in secondary school as well, where mothers kind of had this life and they wanted their kid to they wanted to live through their child so much and how it really impacted them. Yeah. So that's a really interesting point. But the thing is, I think it's quite a common thing. I think a lot of parents do have an idea of what they want for their child and what they deem to be the best thing for their child. And in a lot of cases, it's not maybe what works for your child. Maybe it's not what your child wants. So, for example, I know in a lot of African households, a lot of parents want their children to be a doctor, a lawyer,
rubbish. They let me what they want,
an accountant. And I think with that, it ends up, it puts a lot of pressure on the child, and it can also drive a wedge between your relationship.
Yeah.
Or if maybe you're a mother who's always been into fitness, and then your child is a fat slob, you're just gonna, that's not what you wanted for your child.
Yeah,
but
no, it's not. But the thing is, there is right ways to train your children. And doesn't mean that you have to live through them. So no, yeah. While I agree. But I just think there's right ways to train kids, and there's wrong ways.
Parenting. There's no rule book on parenting.
That's the thing.
So,
but there are things that are morally incorrect.
Things that are morally incorrect, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people have a pre-notion of what they envision their child to be like.
No, 100%.
Or what they want their child to be like.
As in, I tell myself,
my child is going to be amazing and be this supermodel and be this and be that. So then when their child comes, they put so much pressure on their child. And if their child doesn't want to follow suit and go the way that they went, then they get angry.
No, they do.
Or even maybe we should discuss that on Pretty Privilege, but I was going to say... Ignore.
No, say it. You have to say it now.
No, I was going to say, with parents, do you think you'd be able to identify if one of your kids were not cute?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you didn't find your child attractive?
I would.
But then would you not abuse the child, but would you treat the child differently to the others?
No, I wouldn't treat you differently. But the thing is, I know this is why do people like to lie to themselves? That's the problem. The thing is, let's be honest, not every child can be cute. It's life. Not everybody can be cute. Not every baby is cute. Because you see some babies, you're like, oh my God, so cute. And you don't say that to every baby. And the thing is, it's unfortunate, guys. And I'm going to tell you the truth. But there are some parents that be like, oh my God, my kid's so cute. And then everyone else is like, aww. Knowing full well that the child is not cute, and that's why they didn't say it. But I don't think I'll treat the child differently because they're not as cute as the other child. But there are children that are cuter than some children. I don't know why we like to pretend to ourselves and say that it's not. There are human beings that are cuter than other human beings. There are puppies that are cuter than other puppies. It doesn't make you a bad person for saying, aww, instead of saying your baby's so cute. It just is what it is. But don't try to say my baby's not cute, because...
I was going to say, I'll be telling my child, you better walk into that room like you deserve to be there.
And I think that you should do that. I think that you should do that. You should help them boost their confidence. But, I mean, that can also backfire later on in life, but each to their own.
Each to their...
Yeah, each to their own.
Okay,
but I'm back onto topic. Boosting confidence.
Let's go back to topic. Okay, so, absent fathers.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about fathers who live in a house but are not instrumental in being raising their child? Have you seen that? Do you feel like that happens often?
I feel like that happens a lot in African culture. Yeah, I feel like there are father figures that are present and just there to say we kept the family household together and how it looks like on the outside, but actually do nothing internally. I think that breeds a generation which we currently have of the independent woman striving to do everything because they saw their mum doing it. I think it breeds more masculine energy than feminine energy. I think it's one of those ones where it's like, you dive into work culture, you want to drive to the top straight away, you're far more ambitious. But again, is that because that's what you've seen your mother do?
Yeah.
Is it because it's what you think that a man should be doing, so you're trying to step into that role to protect yourself? So I actually really think that absent fathers has a lot to impact women a lot, and same with men, because men don't know how to be men. And let's be honest, we as women, and some TikTok, some of our TikTok audience will comment, "Stay out of men's business, girls. What do you know about how men feel?" Yeah, which highlights that.
Yeah,
it is what it is. It highlights that men and women were completely different. So I do think that the absent father also impacts the man, the son, a lot too.
Yeah.
Just a slightly different way again. Not knowing what a good work ethic is, not knowing how to be a man of your word, not knowing how to love because you didn't actually see your parents love you, not having that provider or masculine energy because your dad basically was feminine and was take instead of give. It happens all the time.
Dear. Yeah.
Naomi's just looking at me this episode like, Jimmy. But it's true.
No, it's true. I don't disagree with anything you said. I do feel like having a father in the household, especially for young males, if you're not seeing your father do anything, then why are you going to end up... You're always going to feel like when you eventually marry and you're with your wife or partner or whoever and you share kids, you're not going to feel like you have to bring anything to the table either.
You feel like you're entitled to that treatment.
Like, exactly.
That's what you saw.
That's what you saw. You just saw your dad, you know, pretending to be the man of the house, but not actually giving anything to the family.
It's the pretending for me.
Yeah.
It's
the pretending when all the while your wife is working 2-3 jobs. No,
thank you.
Stop it.
But you know what? I feel like our generation is doing better. I feel like women now are doing better. They're like this. You said it in one of our episodes as well. Like when you meet your person, consider how they're going to be as a husband, but also consider how they're going to be as a dad.
100%.
And I think that's very important. Well, as you say, next generation, we're doing better. I don't see our generation staying in households or relationships to make the man look like the man.
No.
Everybody's just like
I'm not gonna do it to myself. Yeah, literally. That's the thing. And I think I'm hoping that a lot more fathers, I feel like the ones, based on what I've seen, and you might have a different kind of opinion to this, but the guys that I know that were raised by both mother and father in a household, versus a guy who just did not have his dad around at all, I feel like the guys who didn't have their dad around at all have more ambition to be much better proactive fathers.
Do you know why that? Do you know what you can get that from?
But yeah, the reason why I think that is because I feel like a lot of them have watched, you know, shows like My Wife and Kids and watched Michael Kyle. Or,
oh my God, don't even run me into that show.
These guys who have just had no influence from a father figure, they've seen shows like Fresh Prince, where you got Uncle Phil, or Michael Kyle, My Wife and Kids, and seen the fathers that they have been. So where they've had no one to judge them off of because they've not had their dad around, they are looking at these men who are great examples in a TV show
of a good dad.
And of what a good dad is, and they're trying to emulate that.
Do you know what I also think they're trying to emulate? They're trying to emulate everything their mum didn't have. They have a soft spot. Their mother has kind of taught them to have a soft spot for women.
Their mums have prepared them for how to be a husband.
Because exactly that. Because the mother basically is normally attached to her son.
Yeah.
And he's basically the husband role. Number 2, he's watched his mum struggle, which he probably doesn't want for his own missus. Yeah. Number 3, he's very aware of everything they didn't have. Yes. So he knows what to kind of provide. So whilst I do think the TV show like My Wife and Kids, I'm rolling my eyes. My boyfriend will know why I'm rolling my eyes. Is a big thing. I also think it's because they've experienced everything it is they need to do, everything it is they need to step up. And then that brings me into absent father, yes, where the mum does everything, so she's kind of taught them. But then then you're the husband to your mother. That also brings its own.
See, this is what
it brings its own personal issues.
So I'm gonna quote it wrong, so I'm not even gonna bother. But when you get married, please hear me clearly. Leave your family. Leave your mother. Be done with it.
She said.
It's finished. It's over.
She said what she said. I'm going to back her up on that. So, do you know what it is? Listen, we love your mother, right? But
yeah, we love her. You know, if she wants to come and babysit, be my guest. The door's open.
Exactly.
But
I will look after her while she's helping me look after the baby. I even lost my train of thought. But yeah, no. Yeah, we will definitely look after you. But sorry, I'm now your immediate family. Exactly. Your mum's now your extended family.
Exactly.
And I hope I made a better choice. Maybe than she did, but you never know because that could backfire. So let's say it can never be me. But yeah, you're not her husband, honey.
I think I've asked you this question before, though. Sorry, I just cut you off.
No, that's what I was thinking.
If your husband had to choose between order of priority, like you got the mother, you got you, and you got his daughter, where should it fall?
First of all, order? You know what I'm going to say. I'm always going to say me, just the wife, because the mother gave birth to you. She loves you. She looked after you. You guys have looked after each other your whole life. Absolutely. Do you know what happens? The woman leaves her house to go to the man's house, right?
Speak on it.
But I'm not coming to your mum's house. I'm coming to your house. I'm not coming to your dad's house. I'm coming to your house, which means it's now me and you. Yeah. So your parents became they're their immediates. You are now flying the nest. Yes. So I become your immediate. And your child will leave you because she's going to leave you for her own husband. That's if it's a daughter, by the way. Yeah. And if it's a man, he's going to leave you for his own wife. Exactly. Guess who you're stuck with?
Guess who you are stuck with?
Me. So I feel like you should pick your wife. But you know what? The choice is yours. I mean, I'll ask your daughter who she's going to say between you and her man, and she'll tell you, oh, my dad's lived a long enough life. And then we'll be here looking at you. Yeah.
We'll be doing...
But I think the mother thing is that the mothers struggle to let go of their sons.
I think it is. I definitely think it is kind of like on both ends. I think, like you say, the mother struggles to let go of their son. And so where they're so used to having them, they're literally married, like just married to their sons.
Yeah.
But it's prohibiting them from moving forward in their new life.
Absolutely.
And I think if you want to be a good mother, you have got to let your son go.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And I get that he's been helping you around the house, fixing stuff, paying for bills. You have to let him go.
Yeah.
This was never a forever thing. So I feel like a lot of mothers should have set themselves up. So that
it was never a forever thing. And I completely agree with you. And also, do you know what? This is the thing. If I was a woman in that position, and obviously I'm not there yet, but if I do ever become a woman in that position, I would actually want a woman to have a better experience than I did. Yeah. So I don't see why mothers actually do that to the detriment of the son. Mm-hmm. Because you build a kind of a rift, because the man ends up like being in the middle of the mum and the wife.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? The wife gonna win though, but
it's always a constant battle, and I just don't feel like it should ever be that.
It's always a constant battle, and it's just not that deep.
It's just
make the right choice from the beginning.
Buy your mum a dog. It's fine.
Exactly.
Just give her something to look after. Like it just should be a case of your mother's raised you, and now it's time for you to leave.
So when you asked me this question last time, I tried to ask my boyfriend this question. He did not answer.
He was like, I plead the fifth.
He literally was like, I ain't falling for that. Literally. So I was like, oh, is he? So in my head, I made up who he was going to pick.
Oh, who did you think he was going to pick?
Not me. So.
Okay, where did you feel like you were going to fall on the list?
That's a very good question. I wasn't sure. But you know what? I was like, I don't think I'd be first pick. So then I tried to give him like some spiel about, I know who you would pick, but let me just tell you. So I gave him the spiel that I just said right here now. But yeah, so I don't know if he'd actually pick me, but yeah,
we'll work on it. It's fine.
If you like, don't pick me. What do you think though?
No, I totally agree. Like 100%. I feel like your wife should always be number one. Not that many men. I'm sure many men are going to be looking at the camera like, oh, don't know what they're talking about.
Don't listen to them. Stay out of men's business.
Stay out of men's business. No, you should pick your wife, because I will not feed you. Okay. Yeah. Then you have no mother to go back to.
Oh my God, actually. So, actually really interesting point. So at Cozy Chats, it was like, who should feed? Is there a red flag or a green flag, right? Do you feed your husband or your child first? So that's the reverse. You're shied.
No. I'll feed my child first.
Facts.
Because my child cannot operate a cooker. You think that I want,
and my child, kill us. You're a grown man. You can wait. Right?
You can wait. You can manage your hunger.
So this is the reason why I brought that up here is, and it kind of basically kind of backfires on what I kind of said, but I'm still going to say it anyway. But we expect a man to pick us over his daughter.
Listen, it's a different kind of ball game. Don't play with yourself.
Naomi's being biased.
Don't play with your life.
Naomi's being biased. I agree. I'm with you, by the way. I'm 100% with Naomi on this. So yeah, okay. Anyways, back to absent fathers. How do we... Sorry, you were going to say something? Okay. I was going to say, what are the things that we can do to better ourselves when we have an absent parent or an absent father? Do you see what I mean? That's the question.
Yeah. So I feel like I think we've touched on it before, but definitely going to therapy. I think that's very, very important. Yeah. If you have had an absent father in your life, no matter how that has transitioned, whether or not it's him being absent, but he's in the house, him being absent and you've never met him, or him being an angel father, definitely go and seek therapy, because you don't know how his absence has impacted you. Yeah. But also another point would be, I feel like absent fathers. Sorry, no, that's not the point. Oh God!
Just to piggyback,
I lost my train of thought.
Okay, come back to it. Yeah. So, oh shit, I've lost mine now. Just to piggyback off what Naomi was saying, literally earlier, is I think with therapy as well is, we don't want it to be like, oh yeah, just go to therapy. Actually, what happens is you become very much more self-aware about yourself and how you can apply those other aspects and develop in all areas of life. Because it's not just about relationships; it's about professional work. It's about how you interact with men. There's so many areas of your life that need to be that are affected when you have an absent father or an absent dad. That therapy can help us. So just piggybacking off that. Point.
And just to further piggyback off of that,
here we go.
I do feel like if you as a female, if you don't look after the fact that if you've not worked out the daddy issues you have, you can end up in the wrong relationship.
Facts.
And that's such a big thing. It's very, very important because you'd be seeking the wrong attention from the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So you need to do that work on yourself.
Yeah. Doesn't psychology say that we seek to, and we look for our dads in our partners as women, and then men look for their mothers in their wives?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So definitely do that work on yourself, guys. But another way to kind of manage having an absent father in your life is to, why has that slipped my mind again?
Have role models.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Have role models. Yeah, because having role models and mentors in your life will help shape and guide you, will take you down the right paths. Well, not all the time, but more time they can guide you and help shape your life and fill the void of the absence that you have with your father. Because I have seen that in a lot of people's lives, like them having the right people around them has had such an impact on them. I feel like I was saying to my brother the other day, we have our primary influences in life, which are our families. But we also have our secondary influences in lives, which are, our social settings, our surroundings, our, schools and environments. And so I feel like even as a mother, I think there's another thing to also bear in mind is be mindful of where you're raising your kids, what location, there could be, if you're in a gang kind of area,
setting,
your child is more likely to join a gang if they have an absent father. So just making sure that you're in the right locations so that they can be around the right people.
Yeah, and I think one for the parents, like the advice for the parents would be actually, it's a difficult one because again, some adults, not all, struggle to take accountability for their flaws. But I think it's understanding where you fall short and being able to be like, okay, this is where I fall short. Your auntie can help you with this. This is where I fall short. Your uncle can help you with this. And I think one of the episodes with Chris and Prince, they were saying how they lean on each other. So other men doing really well in industry lean on them. And I think that could also really help. It's a difficult one. And as for women as well, again, same for us. We just need to know where we fall short. And actively seek out mentorship where we can do better.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
I'm trying to think what else could impact, like what else we could do to prevent the impacts of lack of parents. I've definitely seen really bad cases of like lack of accountability and lack of self-awareness and how it's just made relationship after relationship after relationship worse. And when you're the problem, so let's not pretend. And I think another thing is, as humans, we all want to have certain experiences. So some people want to have like that experience of, I really wanted to have a mum and dad, and I really wanted to do this. It's like understanding that not every experience is meant for every person to receive. E.g., like, for example, some women, we spoke, will fall pregnant. Some women will not. Some women will maybe able to breastfeed. Some women may not. So it's about understanding what you can do in the position that you're at. I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. I think another thing that's quite important is also just coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
And just understanding the situation at hand, and just knowing like it's okay. If you have a peekaboo dad, for example, that's the dad you have. That's the card you've been dealt. But then it's also about looking at life as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty, rather than just seeing the negativities of, okay, he's done this to me and that's it. I'm just going to choose to be a rebel in life because, I don't know no better.
Yeah.
You can choose to change the narrative and to change your lineage. You don't have to succumb to that. So I think it's also just, accepting the card you've been dealt, but then choosing to look at life in a different lens.
Yeah. The peekaboo dad one is a really big thing. Do you know why I say it's a really big thing? Because a lot of women, obviously we look for what our relationships was like with our dad. So you then look for peekaboo men in relationships, and there's nothing worse. Like, so for example, there's nothing worse than a peekaboo man, even when you're dating. So if you want to talk about red flags, that is one that just comes in and says, oh yeah, I'm going to be there for the long term, then disappears. If he disappears once, please let him disappear and let him go, because there's actually nothing worse than a man that disappears, reappears, disappears, reappears, because he will waste your damn time.
100%. That is such a good point.
Waste your time.
You just don't even go there. If you've got a peekaboo dad and you might notice that the type of guys you date are the ones that just don't give you commitment, because you've been in a relationship with your dad that isn't a committed relationship.
Yeah, no.
And so you end up with a man who can't give you the same commitment. Yeah. And you're accustomed to that because you're used to dealing with a man who goes and then comes back, goes and then comes back.
And those are the worst type of men. Yeah. If he disappears once, you start singing bye bye. Oh.
Exactly. You've seen the relationship. You've seen how your relationship with your dad has transpired. So just be mindful that if you're dating a man who has similar traits to come into your life and disappear, that he's going to continue doing that throughout your life. So stay clear.
And that's not what you want to have for your kids. But again, all of these things stem back to self-awareness and 100%. Understanding yourself. Yeah. So moral of the story is, in order to do better, we must know better. And we must act on what we know. So don't just know and don't do.
Exactly.
You must know and do.
Okay, give them. That was a sweet way to round it up. And on that note,
cheers, my beautifuls.